Welcome to The Walk In, a podcast where doors stay open and stories unfold one conversation at a time. Hosted by Christopher Michael Sean, author, poet, actor, and lifelong student of people and purpose. Here, you're more than just a listener. You're part of the room, part of the story. In every episode, someone sits down, breathes deep, and shares what drives them, what keeps them moving, and what keeps them dreaming. This is a space for dreamers, doers, and those still finding their way. So pull up a chair, pour something warm, and let's take a walk into the soul.
Cool. Thank you, Chris. My name is Erin. My business is Erin Milligan Coaching. I've been a coach for a couple of years now. I started with ADHD coaching, but it was very interesting, but it wasn't where my heart was at. And so I transitioned into self-love coaching at the beginning of 2025, and I've been doing that for a year now. And it's been amazing. I have a mission to help as many people as possible with self-love that I can in the world because this world is just, we're so hard on ourselves. And there's so many different aspects of self-love too. I had a pretty rough childhood growing up and was always seeking outside of myself to fill that hole, like always looking for people, looking for, drinking or whatever, looking outside of myself, food, all sorts of things. And not any of that is inherently bad, but I didn't know how to really fill myself up with love from the inside out. And so about 10 years ago, that was something I really started focusing on, just starting with my words with myself. And, it's progressed over the years to boundaries and self care and self acceptance and habits. And, there's so many different aspects of self love. So it really is where my passion is now. And I love what I do. I have a membership now that I just started in December. So it's super brand new, but it's a beautiful space. And then I also take one on one coaching clients. And eventually, probably later this year, we'll start doing some group programs and stuff like that. So thanks for having me on.
No, that's awesome. I honestly think it's really incredible that you're, like I said before we were recording, you're putting yourself out there to such a degree. And I think that mission statement of yours is like to teach, to help as many people like love themselves as possible. Like that's incredible. And the world is noisy, it's messy, and we're so hard on ourselves. I can say that a lot of the people that I've had the pleasure of speaking to on this podcast and even outside of it, they struggle with perfectionism. And I think it's because, we walk down the street, we see supermodels on billboards and people with perfect voices, perfect mentalities, perfect everything. And it's all edited, it's all made to look perfect. And we don't realize we don't have to be perfect. We just have to be ourselves. We have to love ourselves, and part of loving ourselves is accepting the imperfections. So like one saying that I say is that it's perfectly human to be imperfect. So, I don't know. That's helped me. But you said that you've been doing this for a year, like since the beginning of 2025?
Yeah. Yeah. One little side comment on what you just said there that's so funny. So in my membership, every month has a different theme. And this theme is actually perfectionism. And it's so funny to me because I do everything intuitively. So I'm very connected to my spirit and just try to tune in with my intuition and follow that for everything in my business. And I felt really strongly about this month being on perfectionism. So it's so funny because this is now like the third time that perfectionism has been brought up within this month that's already on perfectionism. So I just find that fascinating.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, it's absolutely fascinating. Absolutely. Because and that's the thing. Whenever you trust the universe, you trust your intuition and you just keep throwing yourself out there, you're like, hey, I feel this calling in my chest and you just listen to it. Incredible things can happen when you do that.
yeah. Yeah, and sorry, I forgot your question that you had asked before I went on that little tangent, but
Oh,
but yeah,
oh no, it was just confirming that I know you said that you've been here for or been doing this for a year. And I know that we've discussed, and I've discussed with guests in previous episodes about consistency. And I think that like working hard on something for a whole year, like that's a lot of consistency, a lot of resilience. So I was just gonna applaud you and say like that's incredible. Like I'm proud of you for doing that.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, before the recording started and what you said about sending sending out letters to yourself, but they'll only come back months and months later if you keep sending them out. I really resonated with that because um and I was just thinking about this today, actually. Like, had I known, like, I still would have done it, but I had no idea how much patience I needed in this business to, like, really get things going, how many, like, layers you have to, like, add on, hone, make sustainable, and then add on a new layer. Um, I don't know if I would have I'm sure I would have done it, but, like, I definitely thought it was gonna be much easier than it is, but at the same time, I'm so glad because it has taught me this level of consistency and, um habits in a whole new way for something that you're right, like, you don't know when you're gonna see results. You are gonna see them if you, like, keep going no matter what, but there's no, like, there's no date necessarily that you're like, "Okay, this is when I'm gonna start being uber successful." So, it is a scary thing, and, I'm so glad I've started this journey and can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's the same thing with me. Like I had, I didn't come to New York going, I'm gonna start a podcast, like a self-help podcast where I'm gonna inspire dreamers and meet voice actors and self-published authors and coaches and therapists and spiritual guides. And I, I definitely didn't think that. I was definitely thinking like, man, that divorce sucked. Like it wasn't, but if I had known where I was going to be now, yeah, absolutely still would have done it. I think I might have been a little bit more motivated. And I think that one piece of mentality that I'm trying to adopt is those people who are able to like change their thought process from going, I'm going to keep going until I get there to going, I'm already there. Like I'm already thinking of myself as being there, you know? So like whenever you send a letter, like my saying earlier, whenever you send a letter to yourself, like that's your consistency, your resilience. That's you, putting in the work every single day. When you put the work in every single day, that's a letter a day to yourself for the future. But you don't get to cash that out until months and months later. It's the same thing. It's and I think it's incredible. And whenever we can look back at that and go, with and it's with everything that we do. Everything that we do, whether it's good or bad or in between, it all adds up in the end, you know?
Yeah.
And whenever you trust your gut, you trust your intuition, you push yourself no matter what. And the crazy thing about this year in particular is I was told by a friend that this is like the Chinese year of the horse, which the horse represents like momentum, is what I got told. And I think that's incredible because the first week of this year of 2026, I felt nothing but complete momentum. Like if I had lifted my feet, I would have started flying. Like I'm not even kidding you. Like it's not that like, oh, I was making a bunch of money and everything was perfect, but like things started landing in a way where it was just go, 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 go. And I just felt this intuitive spirit to start like, okay, I need to sit down with more people, record more episodes. I need to work harder on this. I need to push, push, push. Not because I'm trying to get quantity out, but high risky. Hold on, my cat.
Aw.
High risky. Yeah. He was playing with his. I got a new kitten, so he was playing with her, and then I guess now he's bored, so he wants attention. But yeah, no, it's just and it's incredible, and I think that like not just me, but my hope and my dream and my goal with the podcast is it's not my success, it's yours, it's Zielo's, it's Mr. Goldner, it's every person who's ever been on this podcast or listened to this podcast. My hope is to help uplift them towards their dreams and to their goals, whatever they may be. And I think a huge element of that is exactly what your expertise lies in, which is self love. I think that self love is so important. And the fact that that is your profession, that you've taken like a liking to helping people love themselves, first of all, huge kudos because that sounds like I would love to do that. but I know how mentally exhausting it can be. And I also know, as somebody who tries to uplift others, that oftentimes that means that you might need some uplifting as well. So it like doors always open, reciprocal energy, absolutely. And I just want you to know that I'm proud of you. I love what you're doing and you're doing a great job. And I hope that you spend time loving yourself, doing things for yourself as well. And I don't know. I felt the need to say that.
Aw, thank you so much, Chris. That feels really sweet. Yeah, I think I don't mind. It doesn't take as much energy as you'd think because it's so deep and I thrive off of the deep. But what it does take is holding space for others. So what feels really good for me, because I've always been somebody that people feel like they can talk to and just share like their deepest, darkest secrets with. Like after meeting for a day, I've always been that person. And I love it so much, but there are times where I feel like I'm listening, 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 and need to reach out and be like, hey, can someone hold space for me and listen to me for a while? And that's what you're doing right now. You're an incredible listener, and I really appreciate you holding space for me here. And yeah, just love what you're doing. I love that everything that you're about is lifting up others up as well. It's really awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So and that's the whole point of the podcast as well, is holding people's giving people space, and not holding them to any expectation, or hey, you have to do this or you don't have to do that. And you would be surprised, like for me, like the same thing with you, where like it doesn't take much energy because it like gives you energy, it energizes you. That's the same thing for me. Like I could be having an awful day, I could be like the most sad guy you've ever seen, and then I know that I have a recording at 3 p.m. So I'm like, let me hop on, let me record. And then like I'm recording with someone and I'm just up there. I'm upbeat, I'm feeling great, I'm doing well. I remember there was a couple of episodes where I was recording where I was just completely sick. I like you could barely hear my voice. I was so sick, but I loved it. I love being able to sit there, and it like wipes away the world's worries, and it I don't know, it takes the weight off of my shoulders. It doesn't make me overthink as much and think that I need to be so perfect. It just allows me to exist. So whenever you say that, like that's the kind of like, that you feel the energy that you give kind of reciprocated back to you, like that's incredible. And yeah, I think that one of my struggles as well is that I'm also someone that people can like reach out to, someone people know they can talk to and open up to. But oftentimes I don't have anybody that I can like reach out to and open up to. Um, I also have this fear of like, okay, I'm the one who like kind of carries other people's burdens to a degree. I don't want to become that burden. I don't want someone to be like, oh, okay, well now I have to carry his burdens because he carries everybody else's or he carries mine. So I know that that's something that I struggle with as well. I don't know if anybody else does, but definitely something I struggle with.
Yeah. No, I fully understand that. Yeah, sometimes when you're someone who cares so deeply about others and you're used to holding other people's emotions, holding other people's problems for them, asking for your own needs to be met can be really scary. I have no idea what your past is like, but I know for me, like, not to get too deep on this podcast, um but I was kind of like the emotional adult between me and my dad. And so to turn that around when I've had to ask other people to hold me and hold space for me, or to put my needs above theirs, for example, it's so scary. It's like it's put me into a panic attack in the past. So I don't know how that is for you, but I definitely understand that feeling of when you are the person who needs to be held. It can be scary, but then we have to remember that when we help other people, it feels so good because there are actual chemicals in our brain that are released when we help other people. And so when we do allow somebody else to hold us, you are also allowing them to have those good, happy chemicals. Um, be released in their brain as well. So I think it's the trifecta. I think it's oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, if I have it correctly. I think it's those three. Um, but yeah, so like that is what you're giving someone else when you give them the opportunity to hold you. And that's a really good reminder for me when I'm like having a hard time reaching out because maybe I'm isolating or something like that, or am going through a hard time. I'm like, no, like people feel good holding me, especially if it's someone who I often hold, like they want to reciprocate.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. Like for me, I know that, and I have people in my life. I have my best friend Kit Kat, my best friend Chris. Literally, so I was going through a moment like a couple of weeks ago, where I was down in a rut, and my friend Chris, like he has this beautiful way of annoying me whenever I'm in that rut. Like he knows. Like him and I have known each other for like a decade now, so he knows whenever I'm in that mental space, and I don't know. He knows that if he drags me into a voice chat or drags me in to talk to him, that he'll be able to uplift me and talk to me through my problems. Because 9 times out of 10, and he knows this. I just usually need to just talk it out. I've already got it all figured out. I usually can figure out my own problems pretty quickly, because whenever I was a kid, I grew up very quickly, and I was the youngest, and I watched a lot happen to my two older siblings and to my mom, and my dad wasn't around. It was a whole thing. So I kind of grew up really quickly. I had to learn a lot of things at a young age, and I don't know if that caused like a developmental issue or anything, but it did cause it to where now it's like I know that I can solve my own problems, but even now I have to. I've learned how, but I have to train the muscle continuously to reach out and let somebody else know. And I think it's a very powerful and brave thing when you can tell yourself, I'm not good at this, but I'm going to do this, you know? And that goes with anything. And honestly, that goes with dreams too. You don't have to be good at it, but even just knowing, I'm not good at this, but I'm going to do this. It might not be perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be yours. It needs to be human. And once you take that first step, it is. You know, you reach out to someone and that chemical reaction happens. They first of all, you're going to feel it, they're going to feel it, all because you reached out to them. You're not a burden. Nobody out there is a burden. And if they don't have anybody to reach out to, this is what I love. There are resources in the world, and here in America, in every state, that people can reach out to. I remember um, I was like 12. No, I was 14. It was in Mustang, Oklahoma, and I reached out to a radio host named Dawson McAllister. And unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago, but the guy was super sweet, and he didn't offer any solutions. He just sat with you on the phone, he talked to you, he let you open up, he offered resources, real resources. And his whole thing was he wasn't a therapist, he wasn't, a coach, he was just someone offering space. And now that I think about it, I think it's really poetic that a decade later, after that phone call with Dawson McAllister, I've kind of become that. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I hope that I've become someone that people can come onto the podcast with and feel seen and feel open and feel inspired and motivated, you know?
Yeah. And you are like, please, by all means, toot your own horn. That's something I've been learning a lot recently is like, no, like we do need to see the truth of who we are and be proud of who we are and be like, yeah, I do that for other people. That is absolutely 100% what you do. And like your mission on this earth is like, sounds really clear to like hold that space for other people. And that's the thing, honestly, like for therapists and coaches, like one of the biggest aspects of those professions is just holding space and listening. Because when we have the opportunity to talk and be witnessed in our process, there is so much power than that. And that's honestly like 60-70% of the work right there is just holding space and listening and letting someone talk it out, because really, like, we have everything we need inside of us already. Like, what I do as a coach is sometimes maybe reflect in a certain area that you may not see, or like use a certain process that can be helpful for shifting those deep identity wounds or whatever it is. But most of it is just listening, um, and it's so powerful. Like, the world would be such a different place if everybody was a little bit more intentional about listening. But I already think it's we're in this like big boom of consciousness right now um where people are doing that more and more.
Yeah, it feels like the world has been asleep for a little bit, but bit by bit they're slowly waking up, and the world is becoming slowly a kinder, more conscious place, a more intentional place. And, to some, it sounds like the world is becoming more sensitive. It sounds like the world is becoming too sentimental. But honestly, I think that in a world as chaotic and loud and fiery as the one we have right now, we need a little bit of intentional calm, intentional peace, and listening. There's something that I said a couple of episodes ago with a guest. I want to say it was Dina. Um, I The world has always taught us to put headphones on, listen, don't speak. And I think that there's a lot of power in offering someone a microphone and saying, "Speak your truth. Give me your words." You know. And what you're doing is incredible. And just based on what you shared, which I don't know if you want to go further into your story or anything like that, which I'd love. But whenever I think it is the ones that had like a bit of a tragic backstory, you know? And this is what I was talking about in like my last episode actually was, every superhero and every supervillain has that tragic backstory that could have gone either way. They could have gone bad, they could have gone good. And each of us has a little bit of superhero inside of us. We have a superpower, whether it's our voice or, maybe our, some talent, like playing violin. Like I don't know if you've seen Dina play violin, but she's incredible. Like I played violin for 9 years. She trumps me, and Ziello, his voice acting is incredible. I may be good at talking and holding space, but he makes me as a voice actor look like an absolute amateur, you know? And you've got authors here. You've got like Ethan and James and all these beautiful like Larimore, who they're able to turn words into absolute golden poetry in everything they write. Um, I want to say, man, Brett. Brett was the author who I stumbled onto his work. He's got like a whole series, fantasy books, and they're all so in depth. And it reminds me of like early stage Harry Potter vibes where like the story interlines with each other and it's all so authentic. And he's so passionate about it. If you asked him, "Hey, tell me about your books," oh, he's gonna light up like a Christmas tree. That guy loves talking, and that's how you know it's authentic and real. When someone can walk up to you and say, "Hey, tell me about your story. Tell me about your dream," and you light up like a Christmas tree, that's how you know it's real and authentic. And I think that's something that a lot of people do struggle with is they ask themselves, "Am I doing good? Am I doing all right?" That's something I struggle with. I was just driving home from buying groceries and I was like, am I doing okay? Am I good? And then I had to look at it from an outside lens. I had to take myself out of it and go, from an outside perspective, I'm doing fantastic. Not because I'm perfect, not because things are aligning right, not because I'm, making $1 million, but because I'm putting myself out there and I'm being the 100% real, authentic version of myself, you know? Because so, like I said at the beginning of the recording, there's, you walk down the street and you see billboards with supermodels and radio hosts who are just, they just want the money. Everybody just wants the money. They sell products for money. They sell movies and books and episodes and everything for money, 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 money. But when people like you, me, and all these small creators, we have this talent, we have this art, this superhero aura inside of us that might have started with a tragic backstory, but man, look at us now. Look at what we've done with what happened to us. Because it really could have been different. It really should have been different. but it wasn't. And it's not the universe that decided that we were going to be good. It wasn't this or that, or our mom or our dad or the friend next door. It was us. It was our souls. It was our intuition. It was our hard work that deviated ourselves from that possible path. You know, and man, I could talk about paths all day because I do question that as well. I'm like, man, what if I'd never come to New York? What if I'd never married my ex? What if, because if I'd never married her, I never would have gotten divorced. I never would have moved from Oklahoma to New York with a bag of clothes and $1,000. I never would have started hiking as much as I love to. I never would have lost 100 pounds. I never would have started the podcast or gone to the open mic nights or published my book. I mean, everything happens for a reason, and it's that heartbreak. It's that family drama when we were too young to understand it and when we shouldn't have witnessed what we witnessed. When we had to grow up way faster than we should have. All of that. And it sounds awful to say everything happens for a reason, but it makes us strong. It should not have happened. We did not deserve it, but it's made us strong. And now we can be that strong person for those around us. And that's where the kindness spreads. That's where the superhero aura shows. And that's what I think is gorgeous. I mean, you've definitely earned your cape.
Mm. I love the way that you put that. Almost instead of like, which wolf are you feeding? Like, which are you feeding, the superhero or the supervillain, right? Like, such a good way to put that. Yeah, yeah. Everything you just said, absolutely. Like it is our choice, you know, it is whether or not we choose to look at what's happened, look at our problems, quote unquote, and decide whether they are a problem in fact or whether they're part of the solution. Whether like that event that happened, you can look back at it and decide like actually that's perfect for my next evolution of who I'm becoming, or you can look back at it and just be like, oh, my life would have been so different, my life would have been, you know, and stay stuck in that place. So it's a choice, and it's a choice with every single thing that comes up across our path, to view it as a lesson or view it as this big problem that's going to stop us from getting what we want. And it can always be a lesson, it can always be a way to grow ourselves or practice being the person that we want to be despite the bump that's there, or because of the bump that's there. You know, use that as an opportunity to work out that muscle, whether it be staying grounded in your truth, or whether it be kindness despite unkindness coming your way, um, or you know, just any difficult situation that you have to move through. And that truly is what makes that separation between whether you're going to be a superhero or a supervillain. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, exactly. I love everything you just said. Absolutely. And walking into it, and like you said, like you can look at it, you can walk into it and go, and you can stay there and go, man, this is awful, this sucks. I mean, we all have those thoughts. Every single one of us. We look at our past and we go, man, that sucked. There's something powerful that I read once. You can walk into a room, but it's your choice if you stay there. You don't have to stay there. You can go in there and go, "Man, this sucks." But I'm already here, so I guess I have to stay. The door's open. You can leave. You can choose to say, "Okay, that sucked. It did. I did not deserve that. I deserved better, but I'm going to be better." And I'm going to use this as a stepping stone. And this is a quote from me, from your boy, the new Yoki host. This is from a little while back. One of my first episodes here on the podcast was, while we're climbing the mountain of success, because I see success as like a mountain range. We're all climbing our own mountains. You have yours, I have mine, Ziello has his. We all have our own mountains. And as we're climbing, there's peaks, summits, and valleys. Your peaks are no more or less valuable than mine. We all have our own stories, our own goals. And while we're climbing, we're going to have stones thrown at us over and over and over again. Late bills, terrible childhood, trauma, everything that happens to us, stone after stone after stone. But if we take those stones and we use them to build a cobblestone staircase up the mountain as we climb. It doesn't make it easier, but it makes it a little bit slower. Sometimes life is meant to be slower. Sometimes life it doesn't need to be so fast. We can slow down and take a look at every rock that's thrown at us and go, okay, maybe I don't know the purpose behind this moment, but I know that if I use this now, then later on I'll find purpose. Or maybe I won't. But either way, this is a moment in my story and I'm going to use it. So you use it as a stepping stone up the mountain. And that way, whenever you're at the top, if anybody questions you and goes, oh, well, you just had it lucky, you can look back at the cobblestone staircase that you built from every stone thrown at you. You don't even have to say anything. The work shows for you, you know? And it reminds me when I was driving home, uh, I was driving, so I went back to Oklahoma to finalize my divorce with my ex, and I was 6 hours into my drive whenever an 18-wheeler decided to pull into traffic from the side of the road, no signal, no nothing, and he was basically stationary. So I veered out of the way, and it caused an accident. So I was fine. The trucking company took full blame, and the trucker was fine. Everybody was okay. I did not understand the purpose behind that because in my mind I was going, I don't understand this. Like I'm on my way to do something important. Like I've already had so much that I've had to deal with. I've had a year of getting over my ex, and this is me literally going to Oklahoma. I threw the ring in the lake at home, and it was a symbolic, beautiful moment. God painted the sky that day. If I showed you the picture, which I will if you want, it's gorgeous. It's literally the front cover of my documentary that I wrote because it was that beautiful. And but in the moment before I got to that lake, that crash happened. And I remember the trooper was talking to me. He said he was going to go get the trucker. The trucker, sped off. And I was really confused. I didn't know what was going on or why it was going on. And I was crying a lot. And I don't cry much. I got my senses together. I pulled off to a gas station. I sat there and I called my mom and dad. And it's a little bit of backstory. I had a vehicle before this one. It was a 2018 Kia Forte. It was my first car that I officially owned, and I was using that while I was in college, like pre-COVID, during COVID, and so my dad co-signed for me. I paid that car off and got a new car fully in my name, and I was really proud of that. That I'd never been in an accident, I'd never gotten a ticket, I'd never done anything with that old car. This new car, I just got it. It's brand new. And then this accident happens. 6 years of perfect driving, and in my mind, we're down the drain. But I didn't understand the purpose then. It took me way later. So I called my mom and dad. I opened up to them. I was crying. I bent some metal on my car so that I could drive. It was just mostly fender damage, thankfully. So I get down to my dad's house in Kentucky, from New York to Kentucky, and I remember pulling in. I didn't grow up with my dad, but he was around as much as he could be. Um, but whenever I pulled into his driveway and he's sitting out there with his cane, and the dogs are running out to the car, and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm already trying my best to hold myself together. I started crying again. And then my stepmom comes out, and my dad was like, "Were you gonna sleep in your car?" I was like, "Yeah, it's 2 in the morning, Dad. I didn't want to wake you up." He goes, "It's 2 in the morning. You just got into a car wreck. You've driven halfway across the US. I I was not going to let my son sleep in his car in my driveway." I was like, "Thank you, Dad." So he brings me in, and they got the spare bedroom ready. And I didn't want the spare bedroom. I'd been to my dad's house one other time whenever I was younger. And the whole drive from Pennsylvania, where the wreck happened, all the way down to Kentucky, I was just dreaming of that beanbag. It's a huge beanbag. It's like probably like $2,000 beanbag. It's huge. And I just imagined it the whole drive. So I get there. My dad's like, "Yeah, here's the spare bedroom." I walked right past it. I went straight to his little man cave, and I plopped onto the beanbag. And he's like, "That's where you want to sleep?" I was like, "Dad, this is exactly where I want to be. I don't want to be anywhere else. And, the dogs are jumping on, they're cuddling me and licking me because they remember me. Ah, and I still didn't understand the purpose, but I was still walking forward. I was still going. I didn't let that stop me. And it's scary. It's exhausting. I had no energy at all. But it's the people around me that were lifting me up. It was waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning and going to a diner. And, whenever you've lived in the Northeast for so long, and you go to a diner and you start hearing the familiar accent, how are y'all doing today? How you doing, sweetheart? What you want this morning? I almost started crying again. The nostalgia of it, the diner vibes, just I knew I was close to home. I knew I was close to Oklahoma. And whenever I, packed up the car, my dad hugged me. I put gold duct tape over the damage on the car. And I had my dad sign it. I had my stepmom, my stepsister sign it, or my half sister. And then I drove to Oklahoma. And, the door, there's a bunch of wind in my ear because the door isn't fully, like, it's secure, but it's the top of it where the window isn't fully on because of the wreck. And I get home, I get to Oklahoma, and I pull in, and, my mom's happy to see me. She signs the car. My uncle signs the car. My aunt signs the car. My best friends are signing the car. My brother's signing the car. My best friends are signing the car. Everyone's signing this gold strip of tape that's like holding my car together. And I had created purpose without even realizing it.
Mm.
Because kintsugi is the Japanese belief that when something breaks, it makes it more valuable because of the story it tells. So when my car broke, when I broke, when my 6 year driving record broke, it's not devalued because it broke. It's more valuable because now it has a story. So eventually, I finalized the divorce. I went to the courthouse. I faced my ex wife after a whole year, and I went to the lake. I threw my ring out, and I drove back to New York. And when I got to New York and I took that duct tape, the trucking company was going to get my car fixed. So I took the duct tape and I put it in a frame. And I have it framed right here, right above my desk to remind me that it's the broken things that make us beautiful. And it's the broken stories that craft our future. And you don't always have to know the purpose in the moment. But sometimes if you just hold on to it just long enough for the universe to make it happen. I know that was a huge rant. It was a huge ramble, but I hopefully you understand it.
Absolutely. That was incredible. Thank you for sharing that story. I really saw all of it. And yeah, you did make meaning where, everything seemed broken for a moment. I love that you had everybody sign the duct tape and yeah, I'd love to see that picture of the sunset as well. That sounds um that is exactly the point of life, I think, and you put it beautifully, especially the the Japanese saying, what did you say was kintsugi or something?
Yeah, kintsugi, kintsugi. So what they did is whenever like a pot would break, they would repair it and they would brush gold into the cracks
Mm,
so that like it would show the value of it.
that's beautiful. And that ties right into perfectionism again, like actually what makes us human and what makes us beautiful as humans is the imperfection. Um, this is kind of silly, but I'm a teeth girl. So, first thing I notice about someone is not their eyes, it's their teeth. And maybe because I had so much dental work growing up, and like braces and all of that stuff, but I notice teeth. And my favorite types of bites are the ones that are imperfect, not the ones that have clearly had braces and are like the perfect smiles that you see everywhere you go, but the ones where like Keira Knightley and her little tooth is kind of like sticking out on one side or um something like that. Like, I love things that are imperfect in that way because that is absolutely what makes them human, and that's what makes all of us human is our imperfections, not how good we are or not, not just all the good we do in the world. that stuff is important. Yes, what we feed is important. Yes. But if we really step back, like our flaws and our imperfections are just as beautiful and just as perfect as the rest of it, as the good that we do in the world. So, yeah, that's awesome. I like that term.
Yeah, yeah. And, I know that for a lot of people, it's not exactly the easiest thing in the world to share their story, and I think that especially for men, at least in my experience, we're kind of taught that, oh, it's a very feminine trait to like open up and to like talk about your problems, but I don't know. I think that it's part of that awakening that we were talking about. Like the world is slowly realizing the beauty of sentimental and opening up and being conscious and being very intentional about our feelings. And I think that we're creating a stronger world. Even though it may not look like it through all the chaos, I think the world is healing. I think the world is slowly waking up. And I think that's incredible. And like what you do and your story as well. Like I don't know if you want to open up more about how like you started the coaching process. Like I don't know what your beginning stages. Like I would love to hear about that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Let's see. Okay, I was backpacking in New Zealand for a few months and I was about to turn 27. Um, actually going back a little bit farther. Um, I was kind of trying to figure out what my thing was. Everybody, had their things. Like I had friends who knew they wanted to be like orthodontists since they were like in their teens, or like people who had their thing for sports, or like I never really felt like I had a thing. And I was kind of trying to figure it out, and I saw some article or something that was like, call the people who are closest to you and knew you as a child and ask them what your thing was as a child. So I called up my mom and I was like, Mom, what's my thing? Everybody has a thing. I have no idea what mine is. What was it as a kid? And she was like, Erin, you have always loved people. You always were the one to be there for the underdog. You always like were there to help people wherever and whenever you could. That is your thing. And that was when I first was really like, oh, okay, yeah, like and I always found like psychology really important, interesting, and stuff like that. And so, um, I used to listen to a podcast by a life coach, Brooke Castillo. I think she's kind of, I think I've heard some like not great things about her lately, but at the time her podcast was incredible and really helpful for me. And yeah, I was kind of trying to decide, do I want to be like a therapist? But this life coach thing came up, and I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. And I decided that around COVID time, but wasn't quite ready. I kept, doing that thing of like, oh, my life isn't good enough yet. Like I can't really do this until I get my life in order. Like I can't help other people get their life in order until mine's in order. And then in 2023, I was backpacking in New Zealand, and I was like, okay, I'm almost 27. Like it's time to figure, like, I don't know, that little jump between 26 and 27 for me felt like a big difference, where I was like, okay, time to stop effing around, like time to like get your shit together and figure out what you want to do with your life. And um yeah, so I was like, okay, like it's time to start. So course and got a certification in life coaching. And know, was really awesome, really powerful. Just even that course, like I learned how to be such a better listener, how to ask powerful questions. I learned a lot about accountability and all of this stuff. But as you grow and as you learn, as you take more clients on, you really find your own flavor with it. You find what works for you and what doesn't, and what works for other people. Even like the best business guru out there is not what's going to work for you, because it's like super important for all entrepreneurs to find their own way of doing things, even if that's just in little ways. So yeah, that's my story. I realized I really wanted to help people. I always knew I wanted to help people in some way or another. And, life coaching felt like the right thing because it was a way to help people go forward in their lives instead of living in the past. Um, but therapy is also amazing too, and I always, uh, am a fan of that as well. And it would be cool to go back to school and maybe become like an EMDR therapist or something as well. I
Mm.
think that would be awesome. But I love all of it. I'm like, I'm like a constant learner. So I'm like, oh, I want to add hypnotherapy and I want to add Reiki. And like, I don't know. I just, every time I see something new, I'm like, ooh, like I want to learn
Mhm.
as much as I possibly can in this world and just get better and better and better at helping people in whatever way that I can.
No, that's incredible, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being ambitious in different areas. I mean, I'm doing acting, open mic nights, I'm writing, I'm painting now. I actually am going back to college. I'm going back to college to be a therapist, to go into psychology. Funny enough, this year, it's funny that you mentioned 26 to 27 because then I just now, like, being 26 is an insane feeling. And then going into 27, I just turned 27 this last November. And I was like, man, I don't know. It was different. I was like, man, I feel like I figured it out. I feel like I know where I'm meant to be, what I'm supposed to do. Because yeah, whenever I was a kid, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought it was being a lawyer, being a cop, or maybe I wanted to be an actor. And I still do have a huge dream of theater and being an actor. But if I asked my mom, if I called her right now, because I've asked her this before, she would say that I've always been a somebody with the people, and I've always been really great with listening and sitting with people. Um, and I had the same thing that you had, where it's like, well, I need to have my life together first, So then you fight and fight and fight. I think we're always going to have a little bit of mess in our life. That's what makes it human. And I think that you did a very mature, healthy thing where you're like, okay, I don't need to be everybody's savior. I need to be my savior, and I just need to hold space for other people. Is that kind of I'm understanding that properly? Is that what it was?
Um, yeah, I think I got to a certain point where I was like, well, I'll say this. I'll say actually the journey of going for your passion, going for like what you believe your purpose is in the world helps to honestly, like, get your life together more than just, like, waiting around and, like, trying to figure so at least it was like that for me. So yeah, so
Mm,
it was deciding that, like, that I had, enough of my life together, I guess, at that point, but really, I think anybody, no matter where they're at, can help other people, and it's actually the journey of learning how to do that like they say, like the teacher learns more than the student. Um, kind of same thing. Like if for anybody who is listening to this, I guess if there's any part of you that desires to go after some purpose of yours that you feel is your purpose, and you feel like I'm not ready, just start it, and I promise you will get ready through that process
mm-hmm,
like way quicker than if you try to get yourself ready first.
mm-hmm.
So
You've
that's what
just
I
got to,
would
yeah,
yeah,
you just got to start moving. You got to
yeah.
start with that step one, and it's terrifying. It is, and it's exhausting. But man, to be living your purpose through every movement, and you're sitting here, you're like, man, I don't know if I have it in me. I don't know if I have the spirit. Maybe you don't, but like you said, just start and you will. It's the journey. It's the journey that makes the teacher. You know what I mean? Like the teacher learns more than the student. I love that. I love that you said that because for me, it feels like I think it's called a wheelhouse. You know, the wheel on the river that kind of moves. The water goes into it and it kind of powers things. It reminds me of that. Like you don't need to be perfect, but you just got to have that movement. You know, and it's it's as long as you're moving and you might be moving in a wrong direction, but you're going to learn. You're going to know things. You're going to see things. And opening your mind to other people and other cultures and other places. Like the fact that you've been to New Zealand is incredible. That kind of threw me off in a way. I was like, New Zealand? What? You just threw that in there. That's incredible. I'm hoping this year my goal for May is to fly out to Bangladesh. I've been planning a trip to Bangladesh for about a year. It's not a big tourist destination, but that's my goal is to go somewhere that I have a lot of friends who are from there, and I want to go and I want to learn. I want to see the culture and be respectful, obviously. But yeah, I just want to learn. I want the opportunity to learn. That's another reason I'm going into college. Is am I ready to go into college? Probably not, but I'm gonna learn so much and open myself up to so much. And I think your story, your journey, and your outlook on life, it's incredible. And I love to see the different ways because I can learn so much from you, and learning the different ways that people approach life, and especially people who are, I call them wayfinders or guides, people who sit with others, offer them presence, and work with them through their problems. You're a wayfinder. You might not be the president of the United States, but a wayfinder is someone who is, in my opinion, more important than that. Because you're somebody who helps others through their path. You're holding a lantern. You're lighting the torches of others as they go on their own journeys. You know, and that's incredible, and it's incredibly admiring. And I'm just so proud of you for going on for as long as you have, and for making this your purpose. Despite what happened to you in your youth and everything that you've gone through, you've still chosen this purpose, this passion, and it drives you. And that's how you know it's authentic, that it drives you. If you do something that you love and it's exhausting, then hey, maybe you can do it this new way or do it that other way, like evolve it, allow it to evolve, because whatever you're doing, you should feel fulfilled by it. In my opinion, I know that's probably a harsh take, but
I don't think that's like at all. Yeah, I being fulfilled by what you do is super important. And yeah, that's that's my most favorite part about what I do is getting done with a session. I'm like, wow, an hour just literally flew by, and like, wow, this person shifted so much in this session, and I get done and I'm honestly usually just beaming, just like, yeah. And it, like you said earlier, it definitely gives me energy. It's like, okay, what's next? Like, how can I like get it out there with other people so I can help other people? Because it's just so fun for me. I've never been somebody who likes small talk. Like, small talk is really hard for me. Like, I've always been the person to go deep in
oh
any
man, me too. Yeah.
well, that's why I love, and I think you'll love therapy for that reason. That's why I love what I do, because we get to just go straight to it and go deep. And like, that is my bread and butter. Like, that is what just like makes me feel so like I ate a big meal. You know what I mean? Like, socially, I'm
Yeah,
so
a
good.
social meal. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And what you
awesome.
said earlier about oh shoot, what was it? It was what you're saying about traveling, and what you're saying about just like taking action and like just moving forward no matter what. That was a lesson I learned from hiking when I first started hiking back when I was a teenager. I remember coming across this like the split in the path. And I had a lot of anxiety at the time. And so I stood at that split in the path trying to decide where to go. But I just stood there still for probably like 10 or 15 minutes. And I finally chose a way to go. And, even at that age, I really reflected and was like, oh, this is what happens because I was doing that in so many other areas of my life too. When we sit there trying to make the perfect decision, we're not moving forward. It's so, so, so important that we just do whatever it is. Even if it's the wrong decision, by making that decision, you'll know that it's the wrong decision and it will lead you to something else. And so yeah, travel, like, go to school, do as much as you possibly can, because like that is where you learn the most about life, is just by like throwing yourself in as many experiences as you possibly can. I think everybody has their own like what do they call them? Like spirit soul contracts. Yeah, I think that's what they say, soul contracts for like what they're meant to do in this world. And for me, I was on a mushroom trip once and I was like asking, spirit, like, okay, what am I like, what is my purpose on this earth? And it was very clear to me that, like, explore. Explore not only as much of the world that you can, but also, like, as much of life as you can. So, like, I want to be a mom one day, but I also want to be super successful in business. And like I said, like help as many people as possible with self love in like a huge way. And I also want to, travel to as many parts of the world, hike as many like different areas as I can. And I really think that's how we can get the most out of life is just like throwing in ourselves in as many unique situations as we possibly can. um, there are some community education classes in my town, and last year I took a Tai Chi class, and this year my friend messaged me and she wants me to take a belly dancing class with her. And I'm like, yeah,
Mm,
why not? Like, like, what could possibly go wrong by throwing yourself into a new situation? At the very worst, you could be in a dangerous situation that you learn how to get yourself out of, and then you grow your self trust. You know what I mean? Like,
mm,
so important to just, go to Bangladesh, go to school again if you're feeling it. Like, you know, meet a new person, learn a new person's story, no matter who they are, no matter who you think, like learning people's story who may sorry, who some people may like judge, like a homeless person or something. Like you can learn so much from everybody because everybody has so much to share. Like everybody has
hmm.
something that you can
Everyone
learn.
has a story.
Everyone has
Hmm.
a story. Every new experience has something to teach you. And yeah, I am all about like exploring as much of life as you possibly can.
Mm, mm. Gorgeous. Put that in a documentary for yourself. That was gorgeous.
That's a good idea.
Where do you get all this inspiration from? Just that's incredible. That's start your own podcast at this point. That's awesome.
I'd
No, I
love
love
to.
No, I love hearing it. No, listen, this whole podcast that's going well, it literally started from me going like enough of my friends were like, "Dude, you have a good voice." Like I don't feel well today, so it's probably why I sound awful. But like, man, you are so inspiring. You should start a podcast. And I was like, "No, that's a dumb idea. Why would I ever do that?" And I did. I ended up doing it. And it goes into what you're saying. Just do it, you know? It reminds me of an old movie which you might be aware of. You're around my age group. So I think I want to say it's called Yes Man, where like he was basically like I want to say it was like he joined a cult or something crazy, and he basically got told he had to say yes to everything, and he like got mad at how much he had to say yes to, but he also experienced so much so
Mm,
much. And whenever he reflected back on it at the end of the movie, he realized just how powerful it is to say, yeah, yeah, why not? It could suck. I could financially crumble, but we have one life, just the one, and to experience another country, like whenever my friend came to me and she was like, "Hey, do you want to go to Bangladesh next year?" And part of me was like, "Can I afford that? Will I be able to afford that?" I'm still asking those questions. But how often do you get the chance to go to another country halfway on the other side of the world and see another culture, see so much and learn so much? It could suck. I could get sick. I could get hurt. So much could happen. And that's what's awesome about it. That so much could happen, or I could just sit at home and be on my couch and watch a TV show. No, I think I'd rather go and chance it. You know?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And as far as the money goes, this, probably not great financial advice, but as far as the money goes, you're gonna remember that experience more than you'll ever remember like saving that extra money.
Mm,
In my opinion,
no, exactly.
I've
And
always
and this is something that I tell people. There are 1,000 jobs. There's $1 million that you'll make in your lifetime. You're not going to remember either one of those. You're going to remember the laughs, you're going to remember the cries, you're going to remember the good times and the bad times. And it really boils all down into that, and it helps us grow. We're social creatures, even though like I was an introvert. If you had told me 5 years ago that I was going to be talking to strangers on a podcast about their dreams and goals and stuff, I would call you a crazy person. Like, I'm not doing that. But it's beautiful what happens when you just put yourself out there and you offer yourself to just say yes to a couple of adventures. Go on some adventures. The world is a beautiful, crazy place. And yes, it's loud and reckless, but it's also fun, you know? I don't know. That's that's why I've gotten into hiking and I've gotten into nature and I always wanted to whenever I was younger, but I don't know if you've ever been to Oklahoma, but there's like two mountains and they're not really mountains. They're more like molehills. So it's really like hiking trails, but that's it. It's not really mountains or anything like that. But Arizona is I've never been to Arizona, but I think y'all have somewhat of a mountain range, right? The
Yeah,
very
yeah,
bottom of them.
yeah, definitely. I'm from Utah originally, so they're not mountains like I'm used to, but actually, so I think you may have seen on my other TikTok, I am doing a challenge this year to hike a different trail every day for a year.
Mm,
And I am super fortunate where there are so many trails around me. I'm also planning on like driving out an hour, a couple hours on when I can on the weekends and stuff like that to get those different trails going. But yeah, I
mm,
got to a point where I was getting a little bit complacent with hiking. I was doing all the same trails, and I knew there were lots of areas very near to me that I hadn't explored at all. And kind
mm.
of had this idea, this intuitive hit like a few months before the new year, like you should do this challenge. It would be crazy and it would be difficult. But like you're gonna explore so much of this area of Arizona, and so I decided to take that on and do it, and it's been incredible because there's so much that I didn't realize was even here. There's so much that
Yeah,
gosh, like that's right around the corner, and I never even knew that was there.
yeah,
Um,
that's awesome.
got onto
No, that's the
that.
same thing I did with New York. Whenever I came here to New York, I wanted to explore it, and now I've seen like the bottom of the Great Lakes, and Erie, and I've seen Whiteface Mountain and the Catskills and Thatcher, and all these different places, and New York is gorgeous. If you ever get the chance to fly up here, New York is gorgeous. You know, it is
Yeah.
absolutely worth the hotel stay. If you can come up here, hike some trails, see some views, upstate New York is beautiful. The city, it's okay, I guess. Too noisy, it's too smelly, but upstate New York is beautiful. The fall is the perfect season in New York. Oklahoma doesn't have very many trees that have the different colored leaves, but New York, oh my goodness. Every color, red, orange, yellow, just beautiful across the landscapes. I'm telling you. Um, but anyways, I don't want to take up much more of your time. Before we round this episode out, is there anything you want to say to anybody out there listening? Anything you want to give them?
If you're someone who wants to help people, seriously, I mean, I know I already said it earlier in the episode, but just begin the process. Just go do it. Like, if there's any part of you that is like, I want to try this class of this thing, or I want to go back to school, or I want to go see that country, like, as cheesy as it is, the slogan, just do it, really makes sense. To yeah, just like experience as much of life as you possibly can, and that's how you continue to get forward, to continue to go forward. So yeah, thank you so much, Chris. This was like such an awesome experience. You're such a cool dude. I was gonna say I don't think you sound bad at all today. So I'm sorry you weren't feeling well, but that is not what I heard from your voice. But this has been an awesome.
I I will admit, like 5 minutes before recording, I was having a bit of an asthma attack after lugging a bunch of groceries upstairs. So not exactly my proudest moment, but yes, I was really lightheaded at the beginning of the episode. I'm feeling much better now, but I was in here like 5 minutes before recording, and I was like, man, I am so underprepared for this. But hey, like, it's the whole point of the episode. Just gotta keep going. Just gotta keep
Yeah,
moving. So
yeah.
that's incredible. Thank you for that final note, and I appreciate you for being here. We'll definitely have other episodes in the future.
Hey there, this is friend of the show, Anthony Ziello, and I just wanted to say thanks for stepping into the walk-in today. If this episode spoke to you, go ahead and follow the show, and catch us every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. You can find The Walk-In on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you listen. And if you want to hang with our community, come join the Discord. We'd love to have you there. A huge shout out to the Podmatch community for having us with them. Their support for dreamers is unmatched. Until next time, take a breath, stay inspired, and as always, we'll walk together again next week.